May 1st. Welcome to your coffee break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski with the latest local news, including 3 men captured for identity theft in Darien. Frank Rita will have your forecast and later on a Nutmeg Sports update, and Donna Lang will join us later to take a look back on this day in history. But first, Fairfield Police Chief Gary McNamara on Twitter shared a photo of a stolen car involved in a crash last night. Now, the chief said that 3 cars were stolen in Fairfield last night, one of which crashed. Now, 2 17-year-old juveniles involved were charged in that incident. Now, no one was seriously hurt, and thankfully, no one driving in that area was involved, according to the chief. And in other news, Darien police arrested 3 men involved in an identity theft scheme targeting the bank accounts of multiple victims. Now, a manager at the Darien TD Bank contacted police on April 26 to report a suspicious transaction just before 4 in the afternoon. Now, a man at the bank had attempted to obtain a replacement debit card for his account and presented a New Jersey driver's license. Well, the manager asked that man to provide a social security number associated with the account, which led the man to read the number off of his phone. Now, officers arriving at the scene identified that suspect as he was leaving as 27-year-old Justin Wright, and he had a New York driver's license. Now, Wright allegedly admitted to attempting fraudulent transactions and said 2 other people had provided him with the bank account information and the fraudulent ID. Wright said he was paid $300 to go into the banks and obtain replacement debit cards for the existing accounts. Well, Wright told officers that his 2 accomplices were driving in a white Mercedes-Benz, which was then stopped by Darien police. Now, the driver of that vehicle was identified as 24-year-old Henry Alubi, and the passenger in that vehicle was identified as 24-year-old Bright Menza. Now, at the time, both occupants were placed under arrest. Now, inside the vehicle, police located a backpack that contained bank receipts, checks, and debit cards, all bearing the names of uninvolved individuals. Now, inside the glove box of the vehicle was a stack of debit cards with unknown people's information on them and 4 fraudulent ID cards. Now, each of the ID cards had different identifying information, but a picture of Wright. Now, all 3 suspects were transported to Darien Police Headquarters for processing. And during a routine search, another debit card with a third party's information was found in Alubi's sock. Now, all 3 suspects were charged with 5 counts of conspiracy to commit identity theft, as well as 14 counts of unlawful reproduction of a credit card, 16 counts of forgery in the first degree, and 5 counts of criminal impersonation. And a Fairfield man has been arrested in Norwalk for multiple alleged incidents of sexual contact with a minor. Now, police arrested 46-year-old Angelo Capocchio at his place of employment in Norwalk last Friday. Now, he was charged with 4th-degree sexual assault and risk of injury to a minor. His bond was set at $75,000, and he's scheduled to appear in court on May 4th. And in other news, an official who oversees student conduct at a Connecticut university has been charged with choking, threatening, and using duct tape to bind a woman in his home. Now, the Associated Press reports that Christopher Dukes, director of the Office of Student Conduct at Central Connecticut State University, is free on $450,000 bond after his arrest last week on charges including assault, kidnapping, and breach of peace. Now, the 45-year-old Hartford man appeared in court Monday and had his case continued until May 7th. Now, he is currently under GPS monitoring and has been ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation. Dukes has been placed on leave by CCSU, where he oversees the university's student code of conduct, including academic honesty, sexual misconduct, substance abuse as well. Now, neither Dukes nor his attorney responded to questions outside of court. And the Stratford Town Council appears set to pass a budget for the 2018-2019 fiscal year this week. Now, a special meeting of the town's top board is set for 7:30 p.m. Wednesday at the council chambers in Town Hall. Now, Stratford Council members have met for the last 2 months to review Mayor Laura Hoydick's proposed $220.8 million budget for the next year. Now, the proposal would include a slight tax decrease from 39.97 mils to 39.90 mils. Now, should a budget pass, it will come in a much earlier than the 2017-2018 spending plan, which was approved last December, a week after the current council was sworn in. Now, the previous town council could not reach a consensus with former Mayor John Harkins on a spending plan. 3 budgets approved by a 6-4 margin by this last council were vetoed by Harkins. Members of the previous council wanted to reduce spending in Town Hall, but Harkins said the budget he vetoed were not responsible. Now, by town charter, the town council must pass a budget for the next fiscal year by May 12th. And though from different parties, both U.S. Senator Chris Murphy and State Senator Tony Boucher agreed that there is reason for optimism that local branch line train service will not suffer cuts or fare hikes. Now, they both attended a meeting in New Canaan Town Hall and said the proposed revisions to the state budget due in the next few weeks will not likely include Governor Dannel Malloy's threat to either increase train fares 10%, reduce off-peak service to the branch line in New Canaan, or cut $4.3 billion from the state's transportation budget. Now, Murphy told the nearly 30 people in Town Hall boardroom, many of which were elected local officials, that he wanted to listen to their concerns over transportation so that he can relay their feelings back to Congress. Well, Boucher said that she had some good news for everyone, since both the Democrat legislative budget revision proposal and Republican proposal do not depend on those cuts to service or significant fare increases. While neither Boucher nor Murphy gave details on how revenue would be raised to rectify the transportation budget deficit that Malloy cautions about, but it seems that the proposed budget drafts include a gas tax, but not electronic tolls in the immediate future, which had been considered. Now, Murphy said he recently talked to the chairman of the Transportation of the Assembly. Take a look.
Hire is within the next 3 weeks, right? And to figure out a way to fill that fund back up so that you can forestall the need for any service cuts or rate increases, or at least serious fare increases by early May. The session is over in early May, and I don't think anybody has any interest in going beyond that date. I was just with the chairman of the Transportation Committee at the state legislature yesterday, and he sounded optimistic about their ability to cobble together the money. It didn't sound as if tolls was going to be part of that package, but there were going to be potentially fuel taxes, increases that would feed into the Special Transportation Fund.
Now, there is much more on that story right now at ncadvertiser.com. But taking a turn, we're going to throw it over to Frank Granito for a look at your forecast, which is some pretty good news for the coming days, right, Frank?
Yeah, happy May, Kate, and it is certainly reflecting it outside finally. Partly sunny skies today and very warm with temperatures up around 73 degrees. We'll see clear skies overnight with a low of 55. Going to be beautiful tomorrow around Fairfield County. Temperatures in the low 80s. Nice little breeze to go along with it. Mostly sunny skies. 62 overnight and mild, and temperatures back in the low 80s again on Thursday. Some sun, but increasing cloud cover later in the day. We'll have cloudy skies coming at the end of the week, possibly some thunderstorms as well before this weekend. That'll do it for this weather update. For now, we'll go back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. And we're going to step out for a break. Come back. Donald Eng will take a look back on this day in history. We have more local news, and Frank will have your Nutmeg Sports update after this.
Voted Best Gourmet to Go in Fairfield County, Palmer's extensive menu offers everything you'll need to make your next event easy and delicious. Whether you're hosting a small get-together or planning a large celebration, they've got you covered breakfast through dessert. Order online at palmersdarien.com or call 203-655-2077.
Want to free up backyard space, or are you just sick of looking at your deteriorating pool? Call Grillo Pool Removal today, the in-ground pool fill-in experts. Pay a fraction of the cost and pool remodel by filling it in with our experienced crew. Available 7 days a week by call or text. Find out more at GrilloPoolRemoval.com.
Welcome back to this May 1st edition of your coffee break on the HAN Network. Time to throw it over to Donald Eng for a look back on this day in history. Don.
Okay, we had a couple of missing people found on this date. First, though, 1786 in Vienna, Austria, Mozart's opera, The Marriage of Figaro, performed for the first time. Considered the greatest opera in history, it centers on a count conspiring to sleep with his wife's maid before she can marry his manservant Figaro. There are lots of mistaken identities, implausible plot lines, and practical jokes. But even if you don't like opera, give it a try. If nothing else, the opera features the Solaria duet, which, as we all know, has the power to make walls dissolve away, and for the briefest of moments, every man in Shawshank feel free. Now we go to 1999. The body of British mountaineer George Mallory, that's him on the right, is found on Mount Everest 75 years after his 1924 disappearance. Now, Mallory had a simple reason for wanting to climb Everest, because it's there. It remains unknown if he actually reached the summit decades before Edmund Hillary. Most people who fall do so on the descent. Also, a photo and letter from his wife, which he planned to leave on the summit, were not in his pocket when he was found. The question remains a topic of speculation and will likely remain so. Mallory's climbing partner, Andrew Irvine, carried a Kodak camera, which could contain the definitive answer. 2011 now, Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden shot and killed by U.S. Navy SEALs in an Abbottabad suburb. He had spent 10 years as the most wanted man on the planet and had been speculated to be living in a cave complex on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Instead, he was in a mansion in an upscale subdivision 3/4 of a mile from the Pakistani Military Police Training Center. Fun fact, though, the builder who added the third floor without local zoning approval testified that the owner paid very well, but that he never met him, and that the others in the house referred to him only as the master. Finally, now we go to 2003, 15 years ago.
I regret saying some things I shouldn't have said.
Like
Dead or alive, or bring them on. And by the way, my wife reminded me that, hey, as President of the United States, you better be careful what you say. I mean, I was trying to convey a message. I probably could have conveyed it more artfully. Being on this ship reminds me of when I went to the USS Abraham Lincoln, and they had a sign that said "Mission Accomplished." I regret that, that sign was there. It was a sign aimed at the sailors on that ship. However, it conveyed a broader knowledge. To some, it said, well, Bush thinks the war in Iraq is over, when I didn't think that, but nevertheless it conveyed.
So it was on this date in 2003 that President George W. Bush declared major combat operations in Iraq have ended in what has become known as the Mission Accomplished speech, although he never actually said those words. The vast majority of U.S. casualties in Iraq occurred after the speech. That is your look back in history for today, May 1st, and I'm Donald Eng.
All right, thanks so much, Don. Well, in other local news, the entire ceiling of the Glass House in New Canaan is being replaced, and the iconic structure is set to reopen this month. Now, the Glass House, completed in 1949, is one of 14 structures on that 49-acre site of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now, in recent years, the ceiling of the Glass House was sagging in several areas. Now, the presence of asbestos in the ceiling plaster also contributed to the need for a complete repair and remediation. In addition, the system attaching the ceiling to the roof timbers was noted to be inadequate for the weight of that ceiling. Now, the damaged ceiling also prevented the opening of 2 of the 3 doors in the Glass House, hampering the functionality originally designed by Philip Johnson. While the Glass House ceiling replacement was partially funded through grants from the Bank of America 2016 Art Conservation Project and from the Good to Great program grant from the state of Connecticut's Department of Economic and Community Development. There's more on that project at ncadvertiser.com. And the entire student body at Joel Barlow High School watched up close Monday morning as more than 24 emergency response technicians and members of the Reading and Easton Fire and Police Departments participated in a mock car crash. Now, the sounds of the crash were played on an audio system and ended with 2 cars hitting each other. After that crash, police lifted a covering to reveal those 2 damaged vehicles. Now, students watched as their peers, 6 Barlow seniors, played out different roles in that accident. Now, Tom McMorrin, the superintendent of schools, said that since he became an administrator in Reading 11 years ago, he's attended some 77 funerals. Now, he gave the students a strong message, saying in part, 12 of those funerals were for young people. He said, "I do not want to attend your funeral." There is much more on that mock crash at aspetuck.news. And in other news, next year's Milford Children's Trout Derby may be in trouble. Now, the cost to run that annual derby, organized by the Milford Striped Bass Club, is about $13,000. Now, about $9,000 goes towards stocking the pond, and the rest goes towards expenses like banners, trophies, and prizes. Now, much of the funding comes from private donations, according to the club's president, Jim Pritchard. Well, this year, derby organizers learned that one of their big sponsors will no longer help with that event. Now, the 2018 Trout Derby is this Saturday, and it's all set to go, marking the 50th anniversary of that event. But whether there will be a 51st event depends on finding additional funds. Now, the club ran into the same problem in recent years. In 2012, the club announced that sponsors had cut back donations, and it had been slimmer than in previous years, and costs were going up all the while. Well, they did manage to secure a new sponsor that they believed would keep that derby going. However, this year, with the loss of that major sponsor, the stakes are just higher. Now, if you're interested in supporting the derby or finding out more, you can visit milfordmirror.com. And as part of its Bankwell pet adoption project, all Bankwell branches will serve as collection points through June 30th for a wish list of pet supplies to benefit local rescues. Now, a list of those items is available on the bank's website, which is mybankwell.com. Now, Bankwell relaunched the pet adoption program earlier this last month, seeking to create awareness about the many dogs and cats at area animal shelters in need of homes. Now, last year, more than 75% of featured animals found a home through the program. Well, Pet Pantry will provide a free gift to the home of any pet adopted during the program and will also serve as a collection point for the wish list of donations. Now, additionally, canine training and behavioral services in Wilton will offer a free 30-minute consultation for adopted dogs, and the Paw Print Market in Darien will provide a $50 gift card to the new owner of any featured pet adopted through the Bankwell Pet Adoption Project. Now, Bankwell will also be matching donations to local rescues made through its coin machines at most of its branches. You can get more information at wiltonbulletin.com. But let's throw it back over to Frank Granito now for your Nutmeg Sports Update. Frank.
All right, thank you, Kate. We were at Stanford High School yesterday for softball. Big matchup with playoff implications as the Black Knights hosted the Danbury Hatters. Danbury got off to a hot start, teeing it off, a leadoff home run to get the game started. They would score 2 runs in the top of the first. But that's the only time they would have the lead as the Black Knights came to play. 14 runs for the offense as they backed up the freshman Kim Saunders, who went for the complete game win. Leadoff hitter Dana Saricchio, 4 for 4, had a triple, scored 4 runs. Amy Cavino and Alyssa Laturi both with home runs in that game. Stanford now moves ahead of Danbury in the playoff seeding, and they are comfortably sitting right now in the 5th spot. Ludlow blanked Bridgeport Central 14-0. In other softball news, Ward a big win, 6-4 over Darien. Norwalk rolls past New Canaan. You had Staples over West Hill, Ridgefield on top of Wilton, and Sheehan taking down St. Joe's 2-1 in 8 innings. Huge game in baseball yesterday, a rematch of the FCAC Championship. Ridgefield getting the better of Wilton this time as the Tigers defeat the Warriors 4-1. Alex Price going 6 innings, surrendering just 1 earned run, struck out 5. Michael Heller would pick up the save as he finished off the 7th inning. Ben Cohen 2 for 2 with a double and an RBI, and Quinn McDonald had a triple and an RBI as well. Big win for the Tigers. We're going to break down yesterday's softball game, all of Monday's action, and we'll even look back to Saturday's big lacrosse games between New Canaan and Darien as we wrap up a week around the FCAC later on today on Nutmeg Sports. For now, though, we're going to go back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. And we're going to step out for a break, come back, and recap some of the top stories we're following today after this.
Now teeing off, Paul Miller from Miller Nissan in Fairfield.
Excuse me, Mr. Miller. What about my new Sentra?
Right now, lease a 2017 Sentra S for only $97 a month.
He is never going to retire.
At Galt, we always put you first. As your full-service home heating partner, we provide expert delivery, installation, and maintenance for all your heating needs with knowledgeable, friendly professionals that give you peace of mind 24/7. Galt Family Companies, you first since 1863.
At Rings End, we say it's time to re-love your home. Time to refresh and reinvigorate the way you live. And whether you're redoing something big or small, remember the letters RE stand for Rings End. We're the new model in home remodeling.
Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski, recapping some of the top stories we're following today. Fairfield Police Chief Gary McNamara on Twitter shared a photo of a stolen car that was involved in a crash last night. Now, the chief said that last night 3 cars were stolen in Fairfield, one of which crashed. Now, 2 17-year-old juveniles involved were charged in that incident. No one was seriously hurt, and the chief said, thankfully, no one driving innocently in that area was involved. And in other news, Darien police arrested 3 men involved in an identity theft scheme targeting the bank accounts of multiple victims. Now, a manager at the Darien TD Bank contacted police on April 26 to report a suspicious transaction. Now, a man at the bank had attempted to obtain a replacement debit card for his account and presented New Jersey's driver's license. Well, the manager asked for the man to provide a social security number associated with the account, which led to the man reading the number off of a phone. Well, officers arriving at the scene identified that suspect as he was leaving as Justin Wright, 27 years old, and he had a New York driver's license. Well, Wright allegedly admitted to attempting to make a fraudulent transaction and said 2 other people had provided him with the bank account information and the fraudulent ID. Now, Wright was paid $300 to go into the banks and obtain replacement debit cards for the existing accounts. Well, Wright told officers that his 2 accomplices were driving in a white Mercedes-Benz that was then found by police. Now, the driver of that vehicle was identified as 24-year-old Henry Olubi, and the passenger in that vehicle was identified as 24-year-old Bright Mensa. Now, at that time, both occupants were placed under arrest. Inside the vehicle, police found a backpack containing bank receipts, checks, and debit cards, all bearing the names of uninvolved individuals. Now, inside the glove box of the car was a stack of debit cards with unknown people's information on them and 4 fraudulent ID cards. Now, each of those ID cards had different identifying information, but all had a picture of Wright on them. Well, all 3 suspects were transported to Darien Police Headquarters for processing, and during a routine search, another debit card with a third party's information was found in Olubi's sock. Now, all 3 suspects were charged with 5 counts of conspiracy to commit identity theft, 14 counts of unlawful reproduction of a credit card, as well as 16 counts of first-degree forgery and 5 counts of criminal impersonation. And a Fairfield man has been arrested in Norwalk for multiple alleged incidents of sexual contact with a minor. Now, Norwalk police arrested 46-year-old Angelo Capaiola at his place of employment in Norwalk on Friday. Now, he was charged with 4th-degree sexual assault and risk of injury to a minor. His bond was set at $75,000, and he's scheduled to appear in court on May 4th. And an official who oversees student conduct at a Connecticut university has been charged with choking, threatening, and using duct tape to bind a woman in his home. Now, the Associated Press reports that Christopher Dukes, director of the Office of Student Conduct at Central Connecticut State University, is free on a $450,000 bond after his arrest last week on charges that include assault, kidnapping, and breach of peace. Now, the 45-year-old Hartford man appeared in court Monday and had his case continued until May 7th. He is under GPS monitoring and has been ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation. Now, Dukes has been placed on leave by CCSU, where he oversees the university's code of conduct, including academic honesty, sexual misconduct, and substance abuse. Now, neither Dukes nor his attorney responded to questions outside of court. All right, let's get one final look at your forecast now with Frank Granito. Frank.
All right, thank you, Kate. Again, looking at a great couple of days coming our way around Fairfield County. Plenty of sunshine the next few days. Temperatures in the mid-70s today. We'll see it up into the low 80s the next 2 days. Clear skies overnight with a low around 55. It'll be a little more mild tomorrow night, increasing cloud cover later on in the week. We could be seeing some thunderstorms coming our way before the weekend. We've got Nutmeg Sports this afternoon at 2 o'clock, highlights and breakdown of all the FCX action from the past few days. For now, though, we're going back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. And we're going to wrap things up here on your coffee break. As Frank said, Nutmeg Sports at 2 o'clock. And we will see you tomorrow on your coffee break with the latest local news and more at 11. Have a great day.